Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, good morning. This is Puji Pujono again from the Rumah Residence Indonesia, being held in conjunction with Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction, 7th session being held in Bali, Indonesia. We're very privileged now to have my dear colleagues, Mr. Harlan Hale from USAID. Shortly, I will ask him to introduce himself and USAID, and we'll have a conversation about what the priorities, the activities, the partnership that they have here, and also the vision or way forward for USAID in disaster reduction in general, and in their partnership in Indonesia and in the region. Pak Harlan, welcome to Rumah Resiliensi.
Hi, good morning. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Right. Maybe I was just converse a bit in Bahasa because Pak Harlan is completely fluent in Bahasa Indonesia. Are you? Selamat pagi, Pak.
Sedikit.
Sedikit.
Sedikit saja.
That's good enough to open the door.
Sama anak umur 5 tahun.
5 tahun.
Anak 5 tahun saja. Yeah.
Right. So linguistically, Pak Harlan said that he is at the age of 5 years old in the Bahasa. Anyway, Pak Harlan, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do, and briefly about USAID itself.
All right. My name's Harlan Hale, and I'm one of the regional humanitarian advisors for USAID's Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance. And I work in the East Asia Pacific office. Our headquarters, regional headquarters, is in Bangkok, but we have staff based around the region in Manila, in Hawaii, myself here in Jakarta. I've been based here in Jakarta for a little over 10 years now. Mm-hmm. So Indonesia is a place I feel very comfortable in, and I'm happy to call my home right now.
Good.
Thank you.
Now, talking about your 10 years in Indonesia, Pak Harlan, and linking it with USAID work in Indonesia, what has been the scope of your work, of USAID's work with regard to disaster reduction and humanitarian in Indonesia?
We work across three major programmatic priorities in DRR. Previous to 10 years earlier and prior to the creation of BNPB, we supported a lot of partners in disaster response.
Right.
But post-tsunami, post-creation of BNPB, we began to also realize that, there was a good partner in country in the form of BNPB and the government of Indonesia,
right,
to begin to look more at risk reduction and programs like that. So
in part it's also triggered by Hyogo framework, I assume.
Yes, Hyogo framework first, and then the Sendai framework afterwards. So our three program priority areas. The first one being increase the capacity and capability of first responder organizations. So in Indonesia, that's BNPB,
right,
that's PMI, and that's a handful of other NGOs we're working with, like the Humanitarian Forum Indonesia membership,
right,
of faith-based NGOs in Indonesia. So that's the first priority, so that first responder agencies' capability to be able to respond to the disasters that do occur here.
Right.
The second priority area we focus on is the promoting a truly end-to-end multi-hazard early warning system.
Early warning area, okay.
And because time and early warning messages have been proven to save lives. Today with technology and the amount of cell phone coverage and internet coverage in country, there's no reason people shouldn't get a message, an early warning message,
right,
for those disasters that you can forecast. Now we understand, earthquakes, very little early warning. But certainly storms, floods, droughts, and other things that are forecastable, people should get a message, and it should be actionable,
right,
it should be understandable, and it should be on time. So we work with BMKG, we work with the Badan Geologi, CVGHM on volcanoes, BMKG on flash flood early warning systems, and some other technical assistance we provide through our U.S. counterparts, NOAA, the National Organization or National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, which is like the weather side of BMKG,
right,
and through our U.S. Geological Survey, which is like the geo side of
Yes.
BMKG. So we use our interagency partners from the U.S. government, scientist to scientist, to work on a lot of that kind of early warning and forecasting and modeling.
Right.
The third priority, of course, gets down to where it's needed, and that's raising the awareness and preparedness of at-risk communities. And I mean, Indonesia is huge, and almost every community in Indonesia has at least one, if not two, major disaster risks. So how do we pick? How do we choose? Well, when it comes to DRR and community-based programming, you know, unlike response where you want to give as many people something, you know, after a disaster, with DRR, we believe you should focus and saturate. We want to go deep down and long term, because DRR, a lot of it's about behavior change.
Right.
And that takes time. And that takes our local NGO partners and others who understand the culture and the community and can transmit knowledge, you know, and can have these discussions and dialogues and can really change behavior.
Right.
If people are not aware of the risk, they can't plan for it and they can't manage it.
Right.
We will never be able to eliminate all risk, disaster risk, but we can manage it. We can reduce what we can reduce and be prepared, you know, for the future. A colleague of mine who's our senior advisor for DRR in Washington often says there's no such thing as a natural disaster.
Right.
There are natural hazards that become disasters when we don't anticipate or prepare for them.
Right. These are the three principal areas of cooperation you have in Indonesia.
Yes.
Now, Pak Harlan, if I recall, there has been a legacy of USAID through the Forest Department, I believe, right? That put the initial states into the maturity of incident command system, I believe, right? And that's become a template in Indonesia and many other countries, but particularly Indonesia. Is that still also be part of these three principal areas of cooperation?
Yes, that's in the first, increasing the capacity of first responder organizations.
Yep.
What's good about the principles of incident command system is it's not the system we take from America and plop into any country, but there are key principles of unity of command, of a common language. I think the best way...
There are modules that could be adapted to the context.
I think
here,
the best way to describe ICS, Incident Command System, is it's an ad hoc organizational system, structure for an ad hoc organization. And that ad hoc organization is comprised of BNPB, BPBD, Dinas Kesehatan, the local health department, NGOs, your military colleagues, police,
and then
who all have to come together.
Specialized agencies as well at the operational level,
and they all have to come together into one incident management team. And so bringing multiple agencies together into a coherent framework.
One operation at the given occurrence,
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Right, excellent. So that's really just a bird's eye view of USAID cooperation in Indonesia. Now, I would like to segue a bit, Pak Harlan. The global platform on disaster risk reduction, for the first time in history, actually crossed to the global south. And Indonesia is hosting it. And out of all time, at the end, hopefully, at the end of the pandemic. And then there is a Rumah Resilience here as a platform that complement that one. In your view, Pak Harlan, how significant is this event for USAID program in Indonesia and disaster reduction in general?
Oh, I'm very pleased that Indonesia agreed to host this GPDRR. They've got a lot to show the world and what their commitment is to disaster risk reduction.
Right.
There are across government and across civil society, a real whole of society approach that they adopt. And so to be the host and be able to showcase a little bit of what they do. Also to be able to hear and listen to people from all over the world, because you can always learn something. I try to learn something every day.
Right.
And I can learn something from anybody. So having these kinds of meetings that bring people together,
this is
the
a
amount
platform,
of networking,
right?
exchanging, and having this room of Resiliencia as a place where our Indonesian partners can showcase a little bit about what they do. Now, it's not everything. There's a lot going on, but between the Ignite stage and the formal event, the opportunities here, social media, formal
It gives
media.
you that range of perspectives.
Boy, I'm looking forward to, after this event, going back and looking at all the recorded
Right.
events that I wasn't able to attend. So,
You will.
This is serious.
Definitely.
This is a very
Now,
important thing.
but Harlan, some colleagues have some sort of apprehension that a large event like this would tend to look at only the achievement, so to speak, and in a way overlook the risk that's still there that threaten our life and livelihood. What's your wisdom words about this, Harlan?
Well, I think it's important to celebrate the achievements and important to also reflect back in my 10 years to see the difference in Indonesia in that thought from when I first came here in 2012.
You witness how this thing moved for a decade now.
Up to 22. You know, it's only when you get a chance to stop and reflect and look back you see what you have achieved.
Right. And also the gap that's still there that remains to be addressed.
Of course, there's always that, and we tend to focus on what we need to do, what's not being done, more than celebrate what we have done. So an opportunity to celebrate is important. That said, of course, climate change is one of the most, life-threatening, life-impacting events going on for the planet as a whole and for Indonesia in particular. We're going to see an increase in disasters, climate-based, hazards, floods, droughts, and all manner of things.
And the tail end of the pandemic is still here.
And we still have that, and Lord knows when the next one is. I mean,
erupt again, right?
Presently, right now in Indonesia, thank God, there are several livestock and animal diseases going around that haven't jumped to human beings yet.
Right.
Like foot and mouth disease and some others that have cropped back up again. We never know where the next one of these is coming from.
Yeah. Now, Harlan, with that sobering note in mind.
I can be really depressing sometimes.
No. I think that was balancing the perspective. So, with that sobering note at hand, what would be the major priorities for USAID, say, from now until very, very short time, until September Ministerial Conference in Brisbane and beyond that? What would be the key priorities that you have, Pak?
Well, I think we still have a lot to do on the three that I laid out before, but integrating that in with our climate activity and our environmental, natural resource management and climate change programming and activities here in Indonesia. They speak of the, humanitarian development and climate nexus
interface,
and intellectually that's the way to look at it, but we also have challenges in our bureaucracies to really make it work. And I think there's a strong commitment on the part of certainly USAID and the US government to make it work.
So when there are two intentions meet, certainly there are ways to do it, right? So this is our very short conversation with Harlan Hale. We could spend 3 days talking about this, but the time is really our enemy at this moment. But what I get from you, Harlan, is that the America, USA, and Indonesian cooperation in disaster reduction seems to epitomize the friendship of the two countries.
It does.
That is long-lasting and deep with commitment. Would you agree with that?
I would. I mean, we're common and we're very different, but we're common in a few things. I mean, the United States is the second largest democracy. Indonesia is the third. Both countries span multiple time zones. We have multiple hazards and risks. We're seeing in both countries a lower loss of life, but a greater loss of property and impact on economy to disasters. So there are a lot of similarities between the two countries, and we can learn from each other.
The prospering exchange of knowledge and hopefully both ways wisdom that across the two
definitely
countries.
It's both ways. Our scientists Indonesia has 127 active volcanoes.
There you go.
Our scientists learn as much as they teach.
Excellent.
And the exchange is both ways, very much.
Very, very, very good. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, that was the conversation that I hope encapsulate a broad range of topics in disaster reduction of the USA and Indonesia by USAID. This is Puji Budiono from Rumah Resilience Indonesia, Until next interview, thank you very much, Pak Harlan. Thank you.
Thank you.